The morning started out calm and still. Frost clung to rooftops, and the neighborhood was only beginning to wake. Inside one quiet home, the cheerful sound of kids laughing faded as their mother walked them to school. It seemed like an ordinary day until everything changed. When Crystal came back home, she wasn't alone. Something or someone was there. Within moments, the peaceful start to her morning turned into confusion and fear. A single cry for help, a short struggle, and then silence. When police arrived, what they found inside the garage would shock even the most experienced officers. The security cameras had been turned off. There were no signs of forced entry. Whoever had come knew exactly what they were doing. What started as a simple case of online harassment was about to uncover something much darker, a truth that no one, not even her closest friends, could have seen coming. Crystal Krug was born on November 24, 1980, in Boulder, Colorado. She grew up in a warm and loving home, surrounded by her parents and brothers. When her father later remarried, Crystal welcomed her stepmother and new siblings with the same kindness and openness that everyone admired in her. From a young age, Crystal stood out for her curiosity and boundless energy. She had a deep interest in science. She loved learning how things worked, especially at the tiniest molecular level. But she wasn't just about books and experiments. She also loved to dance, expressing the creative and joyful side of her personality. Friends and teachers remember her as someone who brought light into every room. Her hard work and intelligence earned her a scholarship to the Colorado School of Mines, a remarkable accomplishment that spoke to her determination. Later, she transferred to the University of Colorado in Boulder, where she studied biochemical engineering and graduated with honors. After college, Crystal began her professional journey at Agilent Technologies. Her colleagues quickly noticed her rare combination of creativity and precision. She had the ability to tackle complex research projects while thinking outside the box, and she earned respect for her dedication and skill. Even though her career flourished, what truly mattered most to Crystal was her family. In 2007, she married Daniel Krug, and together they built a happy life in Broomfield, Colorado. They had 3 children, 2 daughters, and a son, and their home was filled with laughter, energy, and love. Her daughters shared her passion for performing arts, while her son showed the same curiosity for technology that she had always carried. To their friends and neighbors, the Krug family seemed like the perfect picture of stability and warmth. But in the fall of 2023, that peaceful image began to crack. On October 2nd, Crystal received an unexpected message from someone from her past, an old boyfriend named Jack Holland, a person she had dated briefly before college. The message caught her off guard. It was strange, and something about it didn't feel right. At first, Crystal ignored the message, hoping it would end there. But it didn't. More messages followed, at first casual and nostalgic, then gradually darker. What began as light conversation soon turned into something disturbing. The tone changed from friendly to hostile. The man behind the messages, Jack Holland, began saying cruel things about Crystal's husband, Daniel. Then came unsettling signs that he was watching them. Photos began to arrive, pictures that proved he knew where they lived and where Daniel worked. Some messages came from accounts under his own name, filled with inappropriate language and alarming images. Others seemed to come from strangers responding to fake online ads that used Crystal's personal information, clear attempts to embarrass and endanger her. The harassment quickly became too much to ignore. Crystal contacted the police and filed reports, saving everything: the texts, emails, photos, and online posts. Detective Andrew Martinez, assigned to her case, noticed how frightened she had become. She was anxious, constantly checking her surroundings, and feeling like she was being followed. But this was only the start. By mid-October 2023, the messages were constant, arriving at all hours, each one more unsettling than the last. What made it even scarier was that Crystal had never shared her new phone number or email address with Jack. Somehow, he had found them anyway. No matter how she tried to block or ignore him, the messages kept coming from new accounts, untraceable numbers, and anonymous emails with strange subject lines. It became clear that Holland was digging through old databases and social media records, determined to find her. Crystal told investigators she suspected he was living somewhere in Colorado, His first message had even mentioned visiting Boulder regularly, suggesting he was nearby. But when police searched for him, they found no stable address, just a trail of records scattered across different parts of the state. He seemed to drift from place to place, close enough to watch her without ever being seen. Each day, Crystal's fear grew. She became hyper-aware of everything, scanning cars and parking lots, checking over her shoulder, and keeping an eye out for anyone who might be following her. She reminded herself that his goal was to make her afraid, and sadly, it was working. Crystal once told friends she couldn't believe her. Children were growing up in a world where danger could come through a phone. The safety lessons she had taught them about being cautious online had become her own daily reality. Her history with Jack Holland had been brief, a short summer relationship back in 1999 that ended before fall. The last time she saw him was in 2001, when he appeared unexpectedly, claiming they were meant to be together. Crystal, focused on her career and future, told him clearly that it was over. He reacted badly, blocked her on social media, and vanished. Years passed in silence. She deleted her old accounts, changed emails, and moved on. But more than 20 years later, he returned, this time with obsession instead of affection. Though he never mentioned her children directly, his fixation on Crystal and Daniel was clear. His attention was entirely on her, built on a delusion that they still shared some kind of connection. For Crystal, that unwanted obsession became unbearable. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart sank. What had once been a memory from her youth had turned into a nightmare. A reminder that sometimes the past doesn't stay buried, and that ignoring danger doesn't always make it disappear. As the harassment grew more severe, investigators began to worry that the stalker's threats might soon lead to something far more dangerous. Crystal's husband, Daniel, was also considered at risk. In his statement to police, Daniel opened up about the toll the situation had taken on their family. He spoke about sleepless nights, constant fear, and the guilt he felt for not being able to shield his wife from a threat that seemed to grow stronger with every passing week. By early November, the harassment had escalated again. Crystal began receiving inappropriate messages and disturbing images from strangers who claimed to have found her through online profiles. Detectives later learned that a fake dating ad had been posted under her name, using her real contact information. The ad traced back to an email account belonging to Jack Holland. That discovery confirmed Crystal's worst fear. Her stalker was crossing new lines. The couple responded by tightening security around their home. They installed extra cameras, reinforced their locks, and even talked about moving. Crystal started keeping what she called her stalker log, a detailed record of every call, text, and suspicious event. She also hired a private investigator to help track Holland's movements, while local police increased patrols near their property. But despite all their efforts, finding solid proof was difficult. The private investigator found possible traces of Holland in Utah and Idaho, but nothing certain. Detective Andrew Martinez told Crystal that what they needed most was digital evidence, direct data linking Holland's accounts to the threats. Without that, police couldn't act. On November 12, 2023, Detective Martinez filed warrants with major tech companies, including Google, TextNow, and Verizon, requesting information connected to the accounts used in the harassment. But a clerical error delayed one of the requests, and by early December, responses from all three companies were still pending. Martinez noted that such delays were frustratingly common. Large tech firms often took weeks, sometimes months, to respond to law enforcement. As the days passed with no answers, the stress inside the Krug household deepened. Crystal and Daniel didn't know how close the stalker might be, or if he was still watching. Then came the morning of December 14, 2023. It began like any other. Crystal walked two of her children to school and returned home shortly after 8 a.m. But what followed would shatter everything. Sometime that morning, she was attacked inside the family garage. When Daniel, who had stayed home later than usual, tried calling and texting her from work, she didn't respond. Hours passed, and his concern turned to panic. He eventually called police, explaining that Crystal had been receiving threats and was supposed to meet with Detective Martinez that very day. Officers arrived at the Krug home just before noon. There, they found Crystal unresponsive. Emergency responders tried to save her, but it was too late. Investigators quickly realized something. was wrong with the home's security setup. The garage camera had been covered, and the doorbell camera was disabled. Video from neighboring houses showed no suspicious visitors or vehicles. Whoever had entered Crystal's home knew exactly where the cameras were and how to avoid them. The attack was carefully planned, deliberate, not random. From the first moments, both investigators and those who loved Crystal knew that this was the devastating end to months of fear and harassment. She had fought so hard to escape. The news of her death sent shockwaves through the Broomfield community. Crystal was known for her kindness, intelligence, and love for her family. The idea that she could be taken so suddenly and so close to home left everyone heartbroken. At first, investigators focused on the person everyone believed to be responsible: Jack Holland, Crystal's former boyfriend. She had named him in multiple police reports, and nearly all the evidence seemed to point his way. But when detectives finally located Holland, they uncovered something unexpected. He had a solid alibi. He was living in Utah, hundreds of miles away, and phone records confirmed he hadn't contacted Crystal for months. The disturbing messages, fake accounts, and threats that appeared to come from him had been created by someone else. The question now was, who would do this? That discovery left the Krug family and investigators stunned. For months, everyone had been certain Holland was behind the harassment. No one imagined that the person pretending to be him could be someone much closer to home. When police told Daniel Krug that Holland couldn't have been responsible, his reaction caught their attention. Instead of relief or disbelief, he made offhand comments and even suggested his wife might have been unfaithful. Detectives noted a change in his tone, sarcasm, deflection, and a chilling remark: "It's always the husband." That comment would soon take on new meaning. Investigators turned their focus to the technology used in the harassment, tracing IP addresses from the fake accounts. They found something shocking. All the digital trails led back to Daniel's workplace. Further analysis showed that several threatening. Then came the mistake that tied it all together. Daniel had sent a test message to his own number after using the burner phone to text Crystal, proof that both phones were in his hands. By December 16th, detectives had enough evidence to make an arrest. Daniel Krug was charged with first-degree murder. As the investigation unfolded, a disturbing motive came into focus. Behind the image of a devoted husband was a man whose marriage was falling apart. Friends later revealed that Crystal had planned to leave him. She had moved out of their shared bedroom and was preparing to file for custody of their children. Daniel knew, and he was angry. Detectives learned that, before her death, Daniel had searched online for information about injuries and unconsciousness. He had created fake accounts and used anonymous messaging apps to send Crystal threatening messages, pretending to be her ex-boyfriend. The stalker had never existed. It had been Daniel all along. The months of fear, the fake emails, and the constant surveillance were all part of a twisted plan to manipulate and control her. But when police became involved and his deception started to fall apart, he took a darker turn. On the morning of the attack, Daniel left home later than usual. He disabled the home's cameras and shut off his car's dashcam before heading out. Afterward, he visited a cafe, creating a calm, public alibi. Later that day, he even used Crystal's phone to send misleading messages, trying to deflect suspicion and distort the truth. The evidence against him became overwhelming. What had begun as a fake stalking case, meant to regain control, had turned into an act of premeditated violence. In April 2025, Daniel Krug went on trial for first-degree murder, stalking, and identity-related crimes. His defense team argued that there was no direct physical evidence linking him to the attack, no DNA, no blood, and unverified traces found on the covered camera. They claimed investigators mishandled key parts of the case. But by then, the digital trail and the truth behind it had already told a very different story. Prosecutors built their case piece by piece, a digital puzzle that revealed the truth. The fake messages, the prepaid phone, the gift card, and the internet searches all told one story, and there was no denying it. They argued that Daniel Krug had created a phantom stalker to manipulate his wife, and when his plan began to fall apart, he chose to end her life instead. On April 18, 2025, the verdict was announced: guilty on all counts. Daniel Krug was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole, and transferred to the Sterling Correctional Facility in Colorado. While the verdict brought a measure of justice, it could never bring peace. Crystal's family described their loss as unbearable. Her father called Daniel's actions pure, selfish evil, reminding everyone that their grandchildren had lost both parents, one to violence and the other to his own betrayal. Her cousin spoke through tears, saying that the depth of his manipulation and the fear he caused were beyond comprehension. Today, Crystal's children live with relatives, surrounded by the love and safety their mother always wanted for them. Her family continues to honor her memory, remembering her for her intelligence, her kindness, and the warmth she brought to every moment of her life. Crystal Krug's story stands as a heartbreaking reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist behind seemingly perfect lives and of the devastating cost of control, obsession, and deceit.